hate him.
He has got such a huge voice, that young fella, the
and he
frontman.
borrowed it from somebody I know very well.
Robert Plant doesn't hold back. Never has. Whether he's honoring true legends or taking aim at the copycats, the former Led Zeppelin frontman speaks with the sharp edge of someone who's seen it all, and isn't afraid to burn a few bridges. While most rock icons protect their peers, Plant does the opposite. He's called major bands boring, overrated, even embarrassing. He's especially brutal when it comes to singers who echo his own sound, those high, howling vocals that once defined an era. And the worst offense in his book, pretending to be Led Zeppelin without earning it. In one interview, he shakes his head and scoffs.
They are Led Zeppelin One.
Yep.
It's like, the kid looks like he's just dropped out of a kind of beautiful little singer.
Nobody's off limits. Not The Who. Not Guns N' Roses. Not even bands trying to pay homage. Because for Robert Plant, honoring Zeppelin doesn't mean sounding like them. It means knowing when to walk away. So, which 6 bands pushed him to speak out? Let's break it down. Number 1, The Who. The Who is one of rock's most legendary bands. They've been playing since the 60s, breaking hotel rooms, blasting speakers, and still hitting stadiums decades later. But to Robert Plant, their long-running presence isn't just impressive, it's disappointing. Plant has openly criticized the band for continuing to tour after the tragic death of their wild and unpredictable drummer, Keith Moon, in 1978. Moon wasn't just part of The Who. He was their heartbeat, a chaotic force of nature who made every performance feel like a ticking time bomb. When Moon passed away from an overdose, meant to treat his alcohol withdrawals, Plant felt the band should have stopped. But they didn't. They brought in Kenny Jones, a solid drummer, sure, but way too polished and controlled for Plant's taste. To Plant, that move stripped The Who of their magic. In an interview with Rolling Stone, he said watching them perform without Moon was dull, obvious, and sad. He just didn't understand why they kept going. Led Zeppelin, in contrast, chose to end their journey after the death of their own drummer, John Bonham. For Plant, that decision preserved Zeppelin's spirit. Even members of The Who have looked back with doubt. Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey have both admitted that things were never quite the same. But despite breakups, the death of bassist John Entwistle, and their own advancing age, The Who continues to tour. Some say it's dedication. Plant sees it as a band that should have bowed out long ago. Number 2, Led Zeppelin. You'd think Robert Plant would defend Led Zeppelin to the end. It was his band, after all. But his relationship with Zeppelin is surprisingly complicated. While fans worship the group as rock gods, Plant has spent years distancing himself from that legacy. In a rare moment of honesty, he once said, "I can't blame anybody for hating Led Zeppelin. Stairway to Heaven was so pompous." That's right. He called their most iconic song pompous. To him, parts of Zeppelin's music feel over the top, even cringy. Especially his own soaring vocals, which he now says were exaggerated and too theatrical. He's also admitted that performing those old songs brings up painful memories. In 1977, Plant's 5-year-old son, Carrick, died suddenly. It was a tragedy that shattered him. Around the same time, Zeppelin was spiraling. Excess, addiction, and burnout were taking their toll. Then in 1980, when drummer John Bonham died from alcohol-related issues, Plant knew it was over. The band officially disbanded shortly after, largely because he refused to go on without Bonham. Unlike The Who, who continued on through multiple losses, Zeppelin ended with Bonham. For Plant, that wasn't just a musical decision, it was emotional. He has spent the rest of his career carving out a new path, diving into folk, blues, and world music, far from the bombastic rock sound that made him famous. To him, Zeppelin gave him everything: fame, influence, history. But it also brought deep pain. And that's why he lets it stay in the past. Number 3, Greta Van Fleet. Greta Van Fleet has been called the modern-day Led Zeppelin. But if you think that flatters Robert Plant, think again. The young band from Michigan rose to fame with a bluesy, hard rock sound that felt ripped straight from the 70s. Their lead singer, Josh Kiska, has a voice that's eerily similar to Plant's in his Zeppelin days, those same high-pitched wails and dramatic phrasing. And that's exactly the problem. In an interview, Plant didn't hold back. "They are Led Zeppelin One," he said. "Yeah, it's like the kid looks like he's just dropped out of a kind of beautiful little singer. I hate him." Was he joking? Maybe. Was he serious? Probably a little of both. Plant later added that Kiska borrowed his voice from somebody I know very well, and threw in a sarcastic jab that the singer claimed his style came from Aerosmith. It was clear that while Plant saw the band's effort, he wasn't impressed with their originality. To him, Greta Van Fleet was more imitation than innovation. For a guy who spent decades avoiding Zeppelin nostalgia, Plant seems irritated that Greta Van Fleet is so rooted in the past. Where he's tried to evolve and explore new genres, they've leaned hard into recreating a sound he's tried to leave behind. Some fans love Greta Van Fleet for keeping classic rock alive. But Plant, he sees them as stuck in time, chasing echoes instead of carving their own path. Number 4, The Doors. Jim Morrison is often remembered as one of rock's most mysterious and magnetic frontmen. But Robert Plant, he wasn't buying the act. Plant has been openly critical of the Doors, especially Morrison's intense, poetic persona. Where some saw deep lyrics and raw emotion, Plant saw a guy trying too hard. He once said Morrison's stage presence felt more like theater than truth. Too dramatic, too rehearsed, and lacking the kind of instinctual energy that Plant believed real rock should have. Morrison's long, moody poetry readings, spaced-out jams, and existential lyrics were central to the Doors' image. But to Plant, it all felt more like a performance than a real connection. He preferred music that hit you in the gut, not the brain. Passion over poetry, power over pretense. He didn't hate complexity, but he hated when it felt forced. Even musically, Plant wasn't sold. He acknowledged their talent, but thought their songs often drifted off into self-indulgent territory, missing the driving force that made rock exciting. Where Zeppelin's live shows were wild and spontaneous, Plant saw the Doors as too calculated, too wrapped up in their own mystique. This clash wasn't just about taste. It was about two very different visions of what rock and roll should be. One was mystical, symbolic, and cerebral. The other was primal, fiery, and direct. And for Plant, the Doors crossed too far into the world of art rock and lost the edge that made music feel alive. Number 5, Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses brought chaos, swagger, and serious attitude to the late 80s rock scene. But Robert Plant, he saw more mess than magic. One of his biggest issues with the band was their lack of professionalism, especially their habit of showing up ridiculously late to their own concerts. Fans would wait hours, not knowing if or when the band would finally take the stage. Axl Rose, in particular, earned a reputation for being unpredictable, storming off mid-show or delaying performances for petty reasons. Plant, who values tight, passionate performances, wasn't impressed. He once mocked the band by saying, "If you're going to be late, at least be good." To Plant, it wasn't just bad manners. It was a sign that the band cared more about drama than music. He's also hinted that Guns N' Roses were more about image and spectacle than genuine artistry. Sure, Appetite for Destruction was a rock masterpiece, but Plant didn't see the band as trailblazers. He thought they leaned too hard into excess, attitude, and ego. Traits Zeppelin worked hard to rise above, at least on stage. Plant has never liked the rock god label. He stepped away from it, choosing a quieter, more thoughtful path after Zeppelin. Meanwhile, Axl Rose often embraced that larger-than-life persona, and Plant wasn't a fan. Even though Axl has openly admired Zeppelin and covered their songs in live shows, Plant has stayed distant, maybe because he sees it all as just another copy of something that can't be repeated. His digs at Guns N' Roses might be laced with sarcasm more than actual hate, but it's clear he sees them as a symbol of rock's decline into chaos, ego, and style over soul. Number 6, Coverdale, Page, David Coverdale and Jimmy Page. In 1993, something unexpected happened in the rock world. Jimmy Page, the legendary guitarist from Led Zeppelin, released an album with David Coverdale, the frontman of Whitesnake. The collaboration was meant to revive classic bluesy hard rock, and on paper, Coverdale, Page seemed like a dream pairing. But not to Robert Plant. Plant was blunt. He didn't just dislike the project. He seemed genuinely insulted by it. To him, it felt like someone trying to resurrect Led Zeppelin without his permission. And the biggest problem? David Coverdale's voice. While many fans found his raspy, soaring vocals impressive, Plant thought it sounded way too much like someone trying to imitate him. He even mocked Coverdale publicly, calling him David Coverversion, a play on his name that made it clear. Plant thought the whole thing was a cheap knockoff. It wasn't just a personal jab. It was about authenticity. Plant believed Led Zeppelin's magic came from the deep, unique bond between its members. Recreating that with someone who sounded like a Plant impersonator felt like betrayal, especially coming from Jimmy Page, his longtime bandmate and friend. The album itself had decent reviews and a few standout tracks, but Plant's disdain overshadowed its success. He reportedly refused to tour or reunite with Page while the Coverdale project was active. It was like a public cold shoulder. Plant didn't just disapprove, he distanced himself entirely. Interestingly, Page and Plant would eventually reunite a few years later for their No Quarter project, but the tension left by Coverdale, Page lingered in the air. For Plant, the project symbolized something he couldn't stand, using Zeppelin's spirit without its soul. More than anything, this feud showed how protective Plant is over Led Zeppelin's legacy. He's not afraid to walk away from it, but if someone else tries to revive it without the heart, the pain, the bond, it's going to get under his skin. And when something gets under Plant's skin, he doesn't keep it quiet. Plant's legacy, on his own terms. Robert Plant has spent his entire career walking a fine line between legend and loner. While the world worships Led Zeppelin's legacy, Plant seems determined to keep his distance from the band, the image, and the sound that made him a rock god. And when it comes to other artists, he's never been shy about speaking his mind. From The Who and the Doors to Greta Van Fleet and Guns N' Roses, Plant's critiques aren't just random jabs. They come from a deep belief that rock music should be raw, real, and rooted in emotion, not polished, pretentious, or stuck in the past. He doesn't care about fame for fame's sake. He cares about truth in the music, about authenticity over performance. He's the kind of artist who would rather move forward than relive the glory days. While others cash in on nostalgia, Plant reinvents himself. He dabbles in folk, blues, and world music, always searching for something that feels honest and alive. He's made peace with not being the golden-haired frontman anymore, and maybe that's what makes him even more powerful now. So when Robert Plant says he hates something, it's not always about dislike, it's about disappointment. It's about watching the art form he loves get watered down or misunderstood. Whether you agree with him or not, one thing's clear. He's earned the right to speak his truth. What do you think about the 6 bands that Robert Plant couldn't stand? Do you agree with his critiques? Or do you think he's being too harsh? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into rock's most iconic rivalries. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.